Coming up on Tech News Today, the Samsung Galaxy Tab is banned in Europe. Unless you're in the Netherlands. You can get all kinds of good stuff there. Also, Nokia sort of bows out in the U.S. We'll explain. And will RIM turn over BlackBerry messages to the UK government? All that and more coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, August 9th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the easy way to sell or recycle the used gadgets lying around your home or office. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it. For a 5% bonus payment for your used gadgets, go to gazelle.com. Use the bonus code TWiT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we kick around the tech news of the day, try to make some sense of it all, and joining us to bring a little sense, Mr. Sharif Sark, contributing editor at Engadget.com, and calling in from Northwest London. Welcome to the show, Sharif.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for staying up a little late for us. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday already.
Yeah, you're living in the future.
I am. I'm ready to start work again.
Let's start off with a German court in Europe blocking the Samsung Galaxy Tab. The Landgericht, I'm totally munging that pronunciation in German, but they're the district court in Dusseldorf, Germany, granted Apple a preliminary injunction barring distribution of the Samsung Galaxy Tab in the entire European Union except the Netherlands. And as is normal with these sorts of injunctions, Samsung faces fines of up to $350,000 US, 250,000 euros, or imprisonment of their management if they continued the infringement. So there's serious penalties attached to it if they don't obey. The Tab was actually released in the UK last week, and according to the Telegraph, it's the country's fastest selling tablet. They got to pull it off the shelves now, Sharif.
Very popular, and I never wanted one more than I do right now, seeing this news.
It's the best marketing Samsung can have.
It is, it is. Have you ever been to Dusseldorf?
I have not had the pleasure, no.
Yeah, I've been, and it's a nice place to visit, but now, legally speaking, it seems I'm effectively living there. So I find that very awkward. How can some judge over there dictate which gadgets I can buy over here?
Well, Apple actually does have to file some paperwork in every country that they want this to apply, and
Right.
They've got a separate lawsuit underway in the Netherlands, which is why it applies to everywhere in Europe except the Netherlands.
It's not as if the Netherlands got through somehow. It's just a separate injunction.
Yeah, they have a separate lawsuit in the Netherlands. So while that lawsuit is getting to its preliminary injunction point, you could run over to Amsterdam and get yourself a Samsung Galaxy Tab that way.
Is the Galaxy Tab all that great? I mean, the headlines read major Android setback, but there's like so many manufacturers that make Android tablets because it's free and open. You can get the HTC Flyer, Motorola Zoom, something like the Toshiba Thrive. Sony's got two coming out. Asus has some. Acer has one.
Tab is the favorite, though, right?
Yeah, and I would almost say that the Samsung Galaxy Tab, the 10.1, is probably the closest kind of analog to the iPad as far as form factor and stuff. So it gets a lot more attention because of that.
That's why it's having this lawsuit.
Yeah,
this is not an interface patent lawsuit. This is a community design lawsuit. So it's like a trademark design. Apple is saying this thing looks like the iPad. Yeah. And the court has agreed.
You know, which is ridiculous. I'm surrounded by black smartphones that all look virtually identical until you actually get into the nuances of the interface and everything. Tablets are going to end up the same way. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdnesses of this kind of law. But it is interesting that this isn't the Android interface patent that we're used to hearing about.
It's almost like a trade dress thing in the United States. It looks very, very similar. And the thing is, Samsung, what's the words Apple uses? Slavishly copies Apple. That's what Apple's been saying for the longest time.
It's also interesting to see Apple. I mean, even though it's not as if they haven't gone after anyone before, but Apple feeling a little threatened.
They're pretty vicious about it.
Apple has been riding high on their tablet horse for quite a while now because they were somewhat untouchable. You know, nothing was the iPad killer yet, and for something to be like pretty popular overseas. And Apple really needing to shut all of that down and obviously going through a lot of work to do so. Just, you know, I see a little tide.
I don't know how the intellectual property laws are in UK, but over
That
here...
was me turning the tide.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, in the U.S., you have to feverishly, defend your rights, or you lose them. So the fact is, it might look like they're really worried, but the thing is, the law here requires you to do something active. Otherwise, you're just sitting on your laurels.
You'll be trampled on. Yeah. Although, I mean, to me, it looks like sabotage. I'm willing to bet that there's some Apple hater that's worked their way into their PR team, their legal team, and has probably found the only way there is to bring down an extremely successful company with extremely successful products is by, creating a terrible PR disaster. And that's what this is going to amount to. Maybe they have to defend in order, they have to attack in order to defend. But if this keeps, blowing up like this, it's going to be a PR disaster for Apple.
Another possible disaster is Nokia essentially pulling out of the United States until Windows phones start coming. They announced today that the Nokia N9 will not launch in the United States. This was reported by Engadget. So the Migo phone that everybody said, wow, it's too bad they're giving up on Migo. That looks really good. You're not even going to be able to buy it in the U.S. They also plan to end sales of all Symbian-based devices as well as Series 40 handsets. So all the feature phones are they're not going to sell those in the U.S. And to my way of thinking, this was the part of the market that they actually still had left in the U.S. Because they were never able to get any carriers to pick up their smartphones, they were losing in the smartphones in a huge way in the U.S. And feature phones were all they had. Now they're saying, you know what, we're going to wipe it all out, and we're only going to sell Windows phones in the US.
That's probably because Nokia could price competitively with those feature phones. The thing is, Nokia was used to dealing with a very worldwide market. Everyone else there doesn't have this subsidized phone situation that we have in the United States. So they were used to selling at $5.99, and that's the way it worked. In the United States, they weren't willing to play ball at all. So now that they're with Microsoft, they're partnering up with that. They're trying to use Microsoft's goodwill with carriers, so they will be able to subsidize their phones in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no, that's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, Sharif.
So that could explain why they haven't had traction with carriers in the past. They're just used to a completely different pricing model over here.
And they've reversed themselves. They say they're only going to sell phones in the U.S. via the carriers. They won't be selling them in third-party channels like they have before, so they're changing that strategy. And maybe that's what they need to do, but it seems like a huge risk to just throw out all the feature phones, which, granted, they haven't been selling as well as they used to be, but that's what Nokia is known for dominating in.
Well, don't they want to strengthen their brand? So they want to make sure that when you think of a Nokia phone, you think of Windows Phone 7. Maybe that's maybe could have been just a term of the deal with Microsoft, saying, look, if you want to bring it here, we want Windows Phone 7 Nokia phones in the United States. None of that other junk. We don't want to be confused with Symbian or your feature phone, the S40 line.
And the United States is not the entire market for Nokia. In fact, it's one of the smallest markets for Nokia. So, the fact that they may be changing everything in the U.S. has less of an effect on them because their strengths are in other parts of the world.
Yeah, and I mean, they've obviously Windows Phone 7 is the big deal going forward. Although I really was hoping, I wasn't planning on getting an N9, but I was hoping one of you guys were, so that we could all look at it and be like, this is such a cute little relic. But I guess that sort of goes with what you were saying, is that it's not really worth it for them to distribute in a market where there's not going to be any innovation on top of it.
Sharif, do you think we'll see a Windows Phone version of the N9 come to the U.S.?
Well, did you see that video, the C-Ray leak video, so-called leak, where Elon basically held up this thing, and he was, the message was actually that aspects of the innovation that's in the N9 will live on. And he was trying to convince people that hence it was a sensible investment to get into the N9. But he specifically said that the hardware aspect, what he called the industrial design, will live on. And that would be a good thing. I've played with the N9. It's a nice handset. Although, that leak in itself kind of revealed maybe that Elop is on another level slightly, another plane. It was kind of ridiculous for him to think that he could have a video like that and specifically say he doesn't want to get it out into the blogosphere.
Oh, that was a planned leak. It had to be, right?
Exactly. It's a plan. So he thinks we're idiots. It's like, I don't know, when that guy starts making smart decisions, maybe then it will be news, not to be too harsh.
Poor Steven. He's getting it from all sides these days. Let's move to the FCC changing their approach to not only the merger between AT&T and T-Mobile that is proposed, but also some spectrum that AT&T wants to buy from Qualcomm. Qualcomm's selling off their MediaFlow spectrum. If you remember MediaFlow, it was wirelessly delivering television. Well, Qualcomm gave up on that. They're just selling off the spectrum. The FCC is pausing its 180-day time period for reviewing the plan to buy the spectrum because they want to examine both of these acquisitions together, the Qualcomm spectrum acquisition and the T-Mobile acquisition, which would actually give AT&T a bunch of spectrum as well. The FCC says we've concluded that the best way to determine whether either or both of the proposed transactions serve the public interest is to consider them in a coordinated manner at this time. But they're stopping short of merging the investigations into one, which is what rural operators in the United States wanted, because they're hoping the FCC looks at this and says all of that spectrum in one company's hands is just not good for competition.
Of course, Qualcomm has come out and said this has nothing to do with anything that might be going on with T-Mobile. The two are totally separate issues. No reason to bundle them together.
This has nothing to do with anything.
Then Qualcomm wants to get rid of the spectrum anyway. They tried that. I think it was actually called Flow TV, and that was it was a nice try. Another mobile television thing that nobody apparently bought, or very few people bought, so they had to go out of business. So they probably don't want this stopped either. Like, just get this thing off our hands. We have no use for it.
Do you know, Sharif, in the UK and Europe, is spectrum kind of split up amongst enough people that you have good competition?
Yeah, I mean, aside from all the main players, for example, in the UK, they all spent billions as a windfall for the government when they bought up, for the 3G networks and so on. But since then, I haven't really heard of major friction over remaining bands, frequencies, and so on. So I don't know. It seems to be something that's quite specific to over there. Recently there was all of this kerfuffle over the white noise.
The white space.
The white space spectrums, again, which I find kind of interesting. We haven't had any analogous controversies like that over here. Maybe we've got plenty of the stuff left. I don't know.
Yeah, you have enough competition. Maybe the spectrum is split up enough that nobody's going under and selling.
They're the land of plentiful spectrum. In the United States, we don't have enough.
You'd think we'd have so much more spectrum, but I guess maybe because we have to cover a larger area, and I don't know. I don't know if that makes any difference or not. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Gazelle. In these trying economic times, you need more money, and you also need new gadgets. So that means you're going to get rid of your old gadgets. What is a person to do? We could solve both of these problems with Gazelle. You actually take your old gadgets, you go on to Gazelle, you type in the name of the gadget, what condition it's in, what wires you have, all of that stuff, and then Gazelle says, we can give you this amount of money for it. You say, okay, and you either print out a label right there and send it off to them, or they'll send you a box if you're lazy like me, and you can put it in their box with their label and send it off to them, and they'll send you a check. Or they can send it by PayPal, or they can give you a gift certificate. There's all kinds of ways to get paid. Amazon gift certificate, Walmart gift certificate. And if you are a TWiT listener, which I'm assuming you are because you're hearing my voice right now, you can get a 5% bonus when you use the bonus code TWiT at checkout. So not only are you going to get paid, but you're going to get paid 5% more because you're watching this show when you get rid of your old gadgets. So try it out today. You've got something laying around. You've been like, I don't want to have a garage sale. I don't want to take this thing down and try to figure out where to recycle it. Gazelle will take care of all of that. Even if they can't give you any money for it, they'll recycle it for you. So there's no reason not to check them out. Gazelle.com. Use the bonus code TWiT for a 5% bonus on your payment when you check them out. Shall we move on then to London? And of course, we were talking in the pre-show with Sharif about all of the disturbances, the riots going on in London and elsewhere in England right now. There is some tech-related news here because the company RIM, makes BlackBerry, has said in a post on Twitter, "We feel for those impacted by the riots in London. We have engaged with the authorities to assist in any way we can." Once they said that, people got freaked out. What does that mean? Sharif, do you have a perspective? What could BlackBerry be doing to assist the police?
Well, it's the kind of message which says nothing and seems to say everything, or maybe the other way around, because, I mean, they legally have a responsibility to help the police in whichever way they can anyway. And the line about them feeling for people over here is just a timing thing. Why do they say that? I mean, it's as if they've already been asked to hand stuff over, or that they're very acutely aware of the accusations being leveled against them, which is that the BBM network is being used to coordinate these things by youngsters. But as for what they can hand over to the police, I think it all comes down to whether the BBM messages, which seem to be what's at play here, get encrypted the same way as perhaps their enterprise products get encrypted, which has got them into trouble in India and elsewhere. And I don't know the answer to that, but whatever they have, they're going to have to hand it over anyway, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, over and over, RIM has resisted governments saying we want a wiretap, essentially, on your BlackBerry Enterprise service and your BlackBerry Messenger service. RIM has said, look, we don't have the ability to do that. Everything is encrypted end-to-end, whether it's going through an enterprise server or whether it's going through our own servers. We can't decrypt it. So they're not saying anything different here. Nothing I've read has led me to believe that they actually can let the government eavesdrop on the messages. The Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act says that the police can apply for details of a customer's phone records. Now, that's something that RIM could hand over, location, details of calls made and received and internet activity, but that wouldn't have the contents of the messages, right?
No, it wouldn't help at all with BlackBerry Messenger. So, I mean, it's completely non-traditional. It's not through the SMS network, whatever. It's a way of, it's analogous to SMS, but it's completely, it's like a group SMS that goes through the data network. And if that data is encrypted, then the same excuse that BlackBerry have, the RIM have in other places is going to apply here. So I don't know how they could help the police. But that said, I don't think it's very important that they do, because I think that even if the police did manage to get any useful information out of this stuff, even if they did set up an office full of people that are going to look for keywords and try and pin down who was doing what, where, and who was inciting stuff, I just don't think they'd get very far, because the level of organization here, we call it organization, is just extremely basic. To me, it looks like people just trying to give each other cover to commit petty crime. And it's hard enough to convict someone in this country when you actually get them on video doing a crime right in front of 10 police officers or whatever. They'll still get out eventually, or they'll never go down. So the idea that they can use this BBM sort of data that's going to and fro, the idea that they'll get anything sensible out of it and then get to use it in a court, I find that very implausible. To me, it's just a huge distraction from the real responsibility here, which is basically with these kids, with these teenagers who are malnourished in every sense, and their parents who are equally malnourished and misguided in a way that they're basically not supervising their kids. And that's where it all lies. This whole, RIM saying they feel sorry for everyone, they're nothing to do with it, really. They'd be using some other way to communicate and just do the basic organization that they're doing.
Well, yeah, aren't people using Twitter and Facebook? And I mean, they don't seem to be calls for that. You don't have David Lammy, MP from Tottenham, saying let's shut down Twitter the way he said let's shut down BlackBerry Messenger. And sure. BlackBerry Messenger isn't the only way for people to communicate.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just to say the police have mentioned Twitter for being used for incitement. So, if people want to shift the blame, they'll seize whatever they can. Sorry, Sarah, carry on.
Oh, no problem. No, I'm agreeing with you. Even if BBM was shut down, let's say they can't glean any information by what was shared already. If that goes down, I don't know, talk via PS3 or, some sort of Facebook page, or somebody puts up something temporary online. I just don't see everyone going home because all of a sudden, BlackBerry, we can't talk.
Yeah, right.
I just don't see that.
Now, another thing the Metropolitan Police are doing is putting up Flickr photos. Apparently, they've put up around a dozen photos asking people to help identify suspects. Don't you all have like cameras everywhere in London? You like can't take a step without these official cameras catching you. Why do they need to use Flickr for this?
Oh, well, maybe they're just using Flickr to share.
They're crowdsourcing.
I see. They're taking the photos from the cameras and putting them.
Probably higher res than the surveillance cameras that are around anyway. Because if you're just kind of hiding your face, somebody's taking a 5-megapixel picture of you. It's a much higher res, so you can actually identify a face.
I went through these pictures on Flickr. There's only about 15 right now, and I mean they have lots of views. No one's commented anything, and at first I was like, I'm looking for someone to say, I know that guy. That's whoever, Tim. And no one has done that because the police are asking, if you do recognize somebody, respond to us directly. Don't just, single out somebody on this Flickr page. But they are getting a lot of favorites. People are favoriting the pictures, which I just think is interesting. Not only are people looking, because Flickr's, the amount of views that they get are public, but I don't know.
Maybe it's like how people sometimes like when you write, I'm injured.
I think it's probably
they
more
mean
of a,
to say, this is something I want to bookmark later on, and maybe I want to see it again later. But
I would
they
think
don't have
it's
a
more
term.
of a bookmarking mechanism. Yeah.
I don't really think, oh, that's a great crime. favorite.
No, I don't. No, I don't mean that. I think people are really loving these photos. I think that they're saving them to come back to later. Possibly.
Now, some of the fallout from the actions being taken here include BlackBerry now getting hacked. A hacker who calls himself Trick from Team Poison posted a letter to the RIM blog site telling RIM they better not hand over data to the police. RIM is actually, has not shut down the BlackBerry Messenger service, and as we discussed, probably can't hand over the contents, so maybe Trick from Team Poison will be satisfied, don't know. RIM has taken down that blog site. eBay says they are looking for unusual listing activity to see if any looted items actually get fenced through eBay. They say they haven't seen any unusual listing activity. Paid Content found a listing for a torched police car, obviously a joke, but not taken down, so eBay's obviously not looking.
Well, there's also I think I saw on other sites that even Craigslist has to look into this too, because there's people trying to fence things there as well. So I guess they're trying to act socially responsible, not encouraging any of this behavior by taking down these listings.
And then Sony's Digital Audio Disc Corporation distribution center burned down in Enfield, an area of London. If you think, oh, well, Sony deserves it, right? I hate Sony. That's not the case. This is a digital audio disc distribution center. So sure, Sony lost a lot of stuff here, but there were also CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray discs, and UMDs, and even some original recordings for hundreds of indie labels as well. So, whether this was on purpose or not, it's pretty tragic that we lost a lot of material here, right?
Original recordings for small bands. I've seen some tweets on that. That's very sad. I doubt the people that set this place on fire would have known what was inside. Yeah, probably. But it is possible. It is possible. And maybe they looted it first. I don't know. Maybe they got a whole bunch of Blu-rays before torching the place. But I doubt it. I think that we attribute a lot of sort of organization and intelligence to these guys and meaning to their actions. And the hackers clearly do. I mean, the hacked page you mentioned specifically distances itself from the damage that's being caused to small businesses here and to ordinary people here. And they're clearly sort of a step above the level of the kids that are actually smashing places up. So it's just wrong for them to sort of identify with those kids. They have a higher, they're thinking about it at a higher level, and they're empathizing with the wrong people here.
All right, go ahead. Finish up, Sharif.
No, I just meant that's the hackers. They're empathizing with the wrong people, basically.
All right, let's try to lighten the mood a little bit. Gamefly, the video game rental service, kind of works like Netflix. You get games in the mail, and then you play them, and you return them, and then the next game gets sent to you. Are launching a digital download service. The beta starts September 8th. You can sign up at gamefly.com/download-games/beta. So you have to work a little bit to get there. And then you have to get accepted into the beta. But if you do, starting September 8th, you'll be able to download as many games as you want and play them at no additional charge as long as you're a Gamefly subscriber. So you have to pay for the Gamefly access. Gamefly purchased Direct to Drive about 3 months ago, so we assume this is what they're doing with it. And it works kind of like Rhapsody or any of those sort of subscription music services. You can play the games as long as you're a subscriber, but as soon as you stop subscribing to Gamefly, you can't play them anymore.
So there's no physical game to walk away with.
Right, it's all downloads.
Yeah. But I don't know how much people really care, right? I mean, if you play a lot of games, do you really need a physical copy?
No, that's why Steam's so successful. People don't care so much about that if they want to do PC gaming.
It almost seems cleaner to me. I'm sorry.
The selection's going to make or break this completely. I mean, like EA was holding off putting Battlefield 3 on Steam. If they put it on Gamefly's, whatever they're going to call their service, that makes their reasoning seem more legitimate. Also, it would really bolster this kind of thing up really fast. I mean, if they only have a bunch of games and nobody wants to play, it's like, hey, you can play Solitaire for $19 a month. There's really no point to this.
Full version of this expected by the holidays. Go ahead, Sharif. I was going to ask you, because I know you're a big PS3 gamer. Does this appeal to you?
Well, the thing is, my PS3 is more of a Call of Duty machine at the moment. And before that, it was an Uncharted machine. I tend to play one game at a time for months to the death, till I've clocked it or I'm just can't take any more of it. So a platform where you're effectively paying to have access to a whole range of titles, you're subsidizing a whole platform, when really you would, someone like me, you would have just spent your money on one game which you play. And then, to be honest, that physical box represents that time in my life when I was playing that game. That might sound crazy, but it kind of, that box has some memories in it for me. So I don't want to lose my box, and I'm not going to sign up to a platform like that.
So when you play a game, you get your 30 pounds worth out of it. You just smash it for months.
Absolutely. My neighbors know about it. My wife knows about it. The street knows about it. I have a projector here. My PS3's up to a projector. I've got my 7.1 surround sound. You can see one of the speakers there. One of the speakers there. Those big black things there. And yeah, everybody knows which game I'm playing, and I'll play it till the end.
So this is definitely not going to. This is definitely not going to work for you.
No.
And we should make sure that they can't tell where you live from these pictures, right?
Who, the rioters?
No, anyone watching.
Well, they might live next door and be like, "That's the guy. I'd know those speakers anywhere."
I just saw. Now I know where that noise is coming from.
We have a reciprocal agreement.
Oh, that's good. All right.
Yeah. They can make as much noise as they want doing other stuff.
Nothing to worry about then. Let's move on to the news fuse. News from Black Hat still trickling out. According to Alex Stamos of iSec Partners, OS X is, quote, significantly more vulnerable than Windows 7 in network-based attacks, and almost every OS X server service offers a weak or broken authentication mechanism. Stamos also says the security by obscurity argument doesn't apply to Macs because over the past 3 years, 1,151 major vulnerabilities have been found in OS X compared to 1,325 on Windows. Apple's latest version of OS X, Lion, uses sandbox, which should help strengthen security. And Stamos has put Windows in front of OS X in the past. This is just his latest evaluation.
After months of development, Facebook has launched Facebook Messenger for both the iPhone and Android in the U.S. and Canada, or Canada if you live there. The app was developed by the Beluga team. You might remember that Facebook bought Beluga back in March, and it allows users to message each other in groups or individuals via Facebook messages or even SMS. That's something that Beluga didn't do. However, it doesn't integrate with Facebook Chat, so it's not exactly an all-in-one type of a solution. Facebook also mentions that the rest of the world will get the app all in good time.
California is asking Facebook to shut down access to the social networking site to the state's inmates. Some inmates' use of Facebook are, it's standard everyday fare, what they had for breakfast, that kind of thing. But some are using Facebook to continue harassing their victims. Access to cell phones are a violation of prison rules, but not a crime. A Facebook spokesman says that Facebook will disable accounts that are, quote, violating relevant U.S. laws or regulations or inmate accounts.
This just seems like
that's totally to do with shifting responsibility again. That is. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I agree.
Because the key problem there is there's 8,000 illegitimate phones that got smuggled into the prison.
Yeah.
There's lack security in the prisons. Fix the security in the prison. Stop talking about Facebook. It's irrelevant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Carry on.
You don't block. You're like,
you hear that, California?
Too many people are using computers, so let's block the internet. Just doesn't
exactly.
Work.
If they can smuggle that many phones in, it just doesn't say much about that prison system at all.
And it's not like they're not going to figure out how to get around these blocks. According to a BookStats survey, there's good news for ebooks. Between 2008 and 2011, ebook sales were up over 1,000%, with a net sales increase of 114 million units. Back in 2008, ebooks comprised less than 1% of the market and rose to 6.4% in 2010. If you're wondering what kind of books people are buying, adult fiction had a big revenue increase of nearly 9% over 3 years. See, and I would have guessed self-help books would have been most popular.
People want an escape.
They do.
Especially over the last 3 years. Yesterday, Apple released the Lion Recovery Disk Assistant tool, which lets you create a recovery partition for Lion on an external drive. The download's tiny. It's only about 1 megabyte, but you'll need 1 gigabyte on your external drive. The backup creates a mirror of the recovery partition on your Mac, so the backup will only work on your machine.
Tired of being called a state actor or an advanced persistent threat? I wasn't asking. China says it was the target of 500,000 cyber attacks.
Oh, sorry.
Half of those attacks were from overseas. What kind of attacks? Apparently, China's being hit with Trojan horse attacks, and 14.7% of them are apparently from the United States.
Well, the IP address was in the United States, but it could have come from anywhere.
The other thing
That's
is
what we always say
attacks,
when the IP address is in China.
Half the attacks that mean that they're inside
right.
China.
And 8% from India, which raises the possibility of Tibetans using this, which also raises the question, the Tibetans have got this new elected leader. Is a cyber attack a violent attack? Because, they're sworn to non-violent. But does that include cyber attacks?
What is the sound of one cyber attack happening?
Click,
That is
click,
so
click,
deep.
click,
It's like a
click,
beard
click, click.
in the mic.
I just
actually.
blew your mind. Via Forensics says that some mobile apps are keeping our data in clear text without encryption. 76% of apps store usernames in clear text, and 90% of the apps encrypted passwords. So your username stored in clear text. Most of the time your password's encrypted, but not all the time. Via Forensics conducted tests from November 2010 to June 2011 and examined a variety of apps, including social networking and financial apps. A couple of notable financial apps that didn't make Via Forensics happy included Mint and Square.
LoadSys. Gotta love them, right?
No.
LoadSys is in the midst of suing a bunch of app developers, claiming that they are infringing on LoadSys's patents related to in-app purchases. Well, LoadSys just made an unexpected enemy. Wolfram Alpha and Wolfram Research have jointly filed for a declaratory judgment against LoadSys. Sorry. The case is now pretty narrow, though. Wolfram is not asking to have the court invalidate the patent, but wants the court to declare that Wolfram does not infringe on any valid LoadSys claim. Head hurting now.
Well, it had to happen sometime.
Yep.
That your head hurting and this thing.
Can I do that? Can I sue people to say, I want to sue you that I'm not violating your rights?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do that.
That's a declaratory judgment. It's also a waste of time unless it's... If you got the money for it, go for it. Yahoo investors are now suing Yahoo, claiming that the shareholders were misled about the restructuring of its deal with Alibaba. The suit was filed yesterday in a federal court in San Francisco.
Federal court.
The shareholders are arguing that they should have been notified by management about the restructuring to stay, you know, informed of corporate going-ons in the company they've invested money in. I know it's a crazy idea.
It's a ridiculous idea. What are they talking about? We need to get that on the soundboard, Jason. The soundbite from The Social Network. I'm going to sue you in federal court.
Okay.
Recreation
I'll
work.
look into that. Or someone will for me and send it in to me. TNT at twit.tv.
That comes up a lot.
It really does.
Let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
All right, so I've got this one. Tecmo Koei Champion Jockey looks ridiculous. Say hello to Champion Jockey. And like modern games, it uses motion control, you know, like the PS3 Move and the Wii and the Xbox Kinect. This game allows you to be a jockey. And now if you've wanted to know how to act like a jockey and how you can do motion control as a jockey, you could watch this video with this gentleman showing you how to ride a horse in front of a camera.
Those of you on the audio podcast, really just kind of in your mind, picture yourself riding a horse and then stand up and look at yourself without the horse, and you'll get it.
It gets even better when there's two of them going at the same time. That move especially.
Oh, that's not safe for work.
It'd be a great question, like what game are they playing? Is it Champion Jockey? Is it DDR?
They're just... They're bad jockeys is what this is.
Yay.
They are bad jockeys.
Well, yeah, they should be bent over.
Yeah. Come on.
They're having fun.
Put your quads into it. You want to be a real jockey, act like one.
Well, don't they have to,
We
like...
live in a world. We live in a world of, you know, we're surrounded by PR bullocks, and these are some people generally having fun. You can't deny that guy was having fun, even in that trailer. So
too much fun.
I find it quite graceful and cathartic to watch.
And on the plus side, you don't have to like become rail thin to be a jockey. I mean, those guys have to weigh like 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's right.
That means
You know, that is true. It's bringing jockeyism to the masses.
And you don't have to beat up on horses.
Unlike Sarah, I could never be a jockey.
Right.
Let's move on to the calendar.
Now I know what I'm going to do when I have my midlife crisis. A couple years.
Buy yourself a red horse.
I'm going to be a jockey. Old Twitter is dead, everybody. Do you know what I even mean? We've had new Twitter for so long now, but old Twitter is finally not the default for all users. This is, of course, is the web interface. So new Twitter is here to stay. Boxy just released its iPad app today. If you haven't played around with it and you're an iOS user, go get it. September 17th may be America's own Tahrir Square-style Facebook revolution. At least that's what Adbusters, the publication, would like us to think. Adbusters wants 20,000 people to take over Wall Street, like physically Wall Street in New York City, for months until demands are met. And those demands are still taking shape, but it has to do with corporate greed and capitalism.
More corporate greed.
Well, less corporate greed because it's Adbusters. If you know their agenda, that's just what I'm going to guess they're going to go in favor of.
A very small subset of people will attend this protest on September 17th, organized through Facebook, and then the November 5th anonymous protest against Facebook.
Right, exactly. And who
How
knows
is
what will
Anonymous
happen
going to
between the
organize
two.
theirs?
Well, it's weird because the campaign, the campaign is, they're obviously starting a little bit early, you know, bring tents, kitchen supplies, we're going to be peaceful, we're just going to live there down on Wall Street. And I'm not sure what they're expecting to accomplish besides people walking over them on their way into the front door. Or...
And plus, the people that finally arrived at Tahrir Square in Egypt, I mean, they braved APCs running people over, tear gas, bullets. I mean, Tahrir Square was the wonderful end of a long and hard journey across a bridge of like serious injury and death. So I think they're kind of naive, and if they think that they're going to call that Tahrir Square, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a odd comparison. We'll definitely check back on September 17th and see what's going on. Samsung's solar-powered laptop, the NC215S.
Catchy.
It is catchy. Is available for pre-order in the U.S. for about $400. The 8-inch Vizio tablet is shipping nationwide. That's in the U.S., of course, for $300. And Walmart is going to shut down its MP3 store August 29th.
They have an MP3 store?
They have an MP3 store, and they've had it since 2003.
I purchased one MP3 from their store.
Did you do that to see how, you know, like how quickly it would download?
When they dropped the DRM, I went to try out the store for the first time.
Now, did Walmart have DRM-free music before Amazon did?
No, I think Amazon beat them to it, but
Okay.
Walmart beat iTunes to it.
So you still went to Walmart even though you had Amazon? That's interesting.
Just to try. I bought one track just to see what the experience was like.
And how was
You
it?
only bought one track,
Not
that's
enough
why
to
it's
get
dead.
me go back.
Yeah.
Which track was it? Which track?
Oh, you know what? I wish I could remember. I wonder if there's a way to tell just by looking in iTunes.
Borderline, probably.
Yeah.
Tom loves Borderline.
It was some. No, it was not a Madonna track.
It took you a minute. Yeah, that was probably what. No.
Wait a minute. What am I
Stop
saying?
that. No, I didn't know. I don't want anyone to know that. Are you looking for your Walmart
Yeah,
track?
I'll keep looking.
I'm sure he is.
I guess we should move on to our feedback. We got a video mail from Ben, and he's driving, but he tries to defend himself at the beginning.
Play.
I just wanted to call in regarding episode 301 and the Android security exploit that was mentioned that makes use of focus switching, so that pushes a possibly malicious app to the foreground. And it's really too bad because there's a lot of legitimate apps out there that use focus switching in order to move their app to the foreground for a lot of good purposes. There's some screenshot apps out there. There's a safety app that I was involved in a while back that locks the phone when it detects you're traveling over a certain speed. You know, I don't know who'd use something like that, but it did that by pushing itself to the foreground and not allowing you to exit until you cross below a certain speed. There's also an app called Toddler Lock out there that is designed to lock your phone, and anytime you try to exit it by pushing home button, for example, it'll force itself back into the foreground. The idea being that you could hand your phone to a kid and they can just use it to entertain them, and you know, you can use it to entertain the kid. So it's really too bad that this might be falling into the wrong hands, so to speak, and I guess that's why we can't have nice things. Anyway, love the show, thanks.
Love the recommendations for legitimate uses of the focus seizing in Android. Still don't think it's safe for you to drive and do that.
Even though he had the attachment, the holder for the phone and everything.
You know, maybe it's safer. Okay, the reason I think it's unsafe to call and drive is not because of hands-free or any of that stuff. He made the argument, we didn't show that part, where because he's using Bluetooth, it's legal. It's the distraction of talking to someone else on the phone. But he actually isn't having a conversation. He's just talking.
Just thinking out loud.
So maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. I still don't recommend it.
Well, Ben...
He definitely missed his turning at some point there because he flipped around like this.
Yeah, I noticed that too. All right, let's move on to the email.
We have an email from Dwayne Andrews. Dear TNT, I am surprised that my fellow esteemed barrister, Iyaz Akhtar, not esteemed, forgot to mention the major benefit of patent law that does indeed encourage innovation, namely that patent applications are public. The patent seeker gets protection for granted patents, but in exchange, he or she must make their detailed process and original work public such that that knowledge is shared. The particular industry is advanced because other manufacturers can decide to improve upon the innovation without copying it or not waste time reverse engineering what would otherwise be clandestine trade secrets, and instead decide to license the technology and incorporate it into even more innovation derivative works. And I'd like to thank Dwayne for that point, because I was just trying to get something across yesterday, and I forgot to mention that after a term of years, this stuff goes into the public domain.
Right. It's not like copyright where it can last almost forever.
That's like why you see generic drugs out there. I mean, it's because you can take that patent, you can take the process, and you can just copy it like indefinitely after that goes into the public domain. So thanks for that note, Dwayne.
All right. Join over 1,800 people who help us pick the stories we cover every day at technewstoday.reddit.com. People like CompFixer87, SciSpud, SA Jewers, Sumu, Tony W, PC Guy 8088, and more. Technewstoday.reddit.com, your chance to have a voice in what we cover. And don't forget, you can buy bricks that go up on the wall here in our studio. People actually see your message when they come in. The bricks are already up, but there's still a few spaces over there, so go to bricks.twit.tv. Thanks again, Sharif Sakr, for being with us today. Let folks know what you do at Engadget and where they can find your work.
Well, they can find my work at engadget.com, where I cover pretty much everything. Maybe I'm going to specialize on desktops, laptops soon. But yeah, if you want the latest and best gadget news, then engadget.com is a place to find it.
And you do the Twitter as well, right?
Oh, I tweet occasionally.
Yeah?
Sure.
Do you want people to follow you?
Shot Sharif, as in Bob Marley. Shot Sharif. That's where you'll find me on Twitter.
That's an awesome handle.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. But you didn't shoot the deputy. Just remember.
No. Actually, I didn't shoot the sheriff either, I better say.
That's probably,
a good idea.
In these times, that's probably a good point to make.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thanks again, Sharif, and thanks to everybody for watching or listening. Appreciate you joining us every day. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call, leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll see you tomorrow.